Look around you. Go to a coffee shop, walk through a park, or just look at your own circle of friends. You are going to notice a quiet, undeniable shift that is happening right in front of our eyes, yet nobody is allowed to talk about it. You will see men. Good, capable, hard-working men. Men who have decent jobs, who take care of their physical health, who pay their taxes and mind their own business. And a massive growing percentage of them are completely, entirely alone, not just single for a few months between relationships. I am talking about men who have been alone for 3, 5, or even 10 years. Men who have quietly, deliberately stepped entirely out of the dating market. And here is the most fascinating, terrifying part of this entire phenomenon. Millions of men are walking away, and women are not asking why. Society is not asking why. The media certainly is not asking why. Instead of curiosity, there is just judgment. When a woman is single for years, society rallies around her. She is focusing on her career. She is finding herself. She is refusing to settle for less than she deserves. She is empowered. But when a man is single for years, the assumptions are immediate, and they are brutal. People assume there must be something fundamentally wrong with him. He must be weird. He must be a loser. He must be afraid of commitment. He must be toxic, socially awkward, or harbouring some dark, hidden flaw. Nobody ever stops to ask the most logical, terrifying question. What if he just looked at the modern dating market, looked at what is being offered, looked at the astronomical risks involved, and simply decided that the juice is no longer worth the squeeze? I want to dive deep into this today, because the silence surrounding this issue is deafening. We are witnessing an entire generation of men silently opting out of romantic relationships, marriage and fatherhood. They are not protesting in the streets. They are not making angry signs. They are doing something much more powerful. They are simply walking away. And to understand why, we have to look at the brutal reality of what a modern relationship actually requires from a man and the total lack of empathy he receives in return. Let's start with the empathy gap, because this is the foundation of the entire disconnect. From the moment a boy is born, he is subconsciously taught that his value as a human being is directly tied to his utility. What can he build? What can he provide? Who can he protect? A man is loved conditionally. He is loved for what he brings to the table. Women and children are loved unconditionally, simply for existing. If you do not believe me, look at how society reacts to failure. A woman who struggles financially or emotionally is met with support programs, sympathy, and a safety net of friends telling her it will be okay. A man who loses his job, loses his money, or struggles with depression is viewed with disgust. He is told to man up. He becomes invisible. So when men look at modern dating, they view it through this lens of hyperconditional love, and what they see is a marketplace that has gone completely insane. The demands placed on the average modern man are mathematically impossible for the vast majority of the population to achieve. You need to be 6 feet tall. You need to make 6 figures. You need to have a perfect jawline, a luxury car, a modern apartment, and the emotional intelligence of a licensed therapist. But you also need to be tough, protective, and dangerous when necessary. You need to be a traditional provider who pays for absolutely everything, but you also need to be a progressive partner who does exactly half the chores and never asserts traditional authority. You need to plan the perfect dates, initiate the romance, text back immediately, and never, ever show a moment of weakness, because the second you show vulnerability, her attraction to you drops to absolute zero. And what exactly is the man getting in return for meeting these impossible standards? This is where the cost-benefit analysis completely breaks down. 50 years ago, if a man worked a grueling 40-hour week and provided for his family, he came home to respect. He came home to a partner who valued his sacrifice. He had authority in his own home. He had peace. Today, a man can do absolutely everything right, bend over backwards to provide, and he is told he is doing the bare minimum. He comes home not to peace, but to a partner who is constantly comparing his real, flawed, human life to the curated fake perfection she sees on Instagram and TikTok. Social media has completely destroyed the modern woman's ability to appreciate an average, good man. The algorithms feed her an endless stream of billionaires, flying girls out on private jets, fitness models with 8-pack abs, and viral videos of men buying their girlfriends brand new cars just for breathing. It creates a baseline of expectation that is completely untethered from reality. So the average guy, the teacher, the accountant, the electrician, the guy making $70,000 a year, who would actually be a loyal, loving husband, he is treated like a peasant. He is treated as invisible, or worse, he is treated as a temporary placeholder, a free meal, an unpaid entertainer to pass the time until someone better comes along. Men are exceptionally logical creatures. We are built to analyse risk and reward. And when men look at the ultimate destination of modern dating, which is marriage, they see a trap. They see a system rigged entirely against them. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The legal system and divorce courts. Over 70% of divorces are initiated by women. In college-educated demographics, that number jumps to nearly 90%. Why? Because the system heavily incentivizes them to leave. A woman can wake up one morning, decide she is simply no longer happy, file for divorce, and the state will forcibly remove the man from the home he paid for, take his children away from him, and mandate that he hand over half of his assets and a portion of his future income for years to come. What sane, rational human being would ever sign a contract where the other party can break the terms at any moment, for any reason, and you are the only one penalised? If I told you to invest your life savings into a business, and I told you there is a 50% chance the business will fail, and if it does, your partner will take your house, your car, and your kids, would you sign that paper? Absolutely not. You would walk away, and that is exactly what men are doing. They are looking at their older brothers, their uncles, and their fathers, who were financially and emotionally decimated by the family court system. And they are saying, no thank you. I choose peace. And that brings us to the core of why men are staying alone for years. It is because they have discovered the immense, intoxicating power of peace. For a long time, society weaponized male loneliness. They told men that if they didn't get married, if they didn't have a woman in their lives, they would end up sad, pathetic, and unfulfilled. But then men actually started trying it. They stepped off the hamster wheel. They stopped spending half their paycheck on dates that went nowhere. They stopped pouring their emotional energy into women who viewed them as expendable. And you know what they found? They found that being alone is actually incredibly peaceful. When a man is truly single and unbothered, his money is his own, his time is his own, his mental bandwidth is his own. He can come home after a long, stressful day at work, and his house is quiet. There are no arguments about why he didn't text back fast enough. There are no passive-aggressive comments about his hobbies. There is no endless drama about her friends or her co-workers. He can sit on his couch, play a video game, work on a personal project, go to the gym, or just stare at the wall in absolute silence, and nobody is going to make him feel guilty about it. Men have realized that the absence of a bad relationship is infinitely better than the presence of one. They have realized that protecting their peace is far more valuable than chasing a romantic ideal that no longer exists in the modern world. But why don't women ask why? Why is there zero curiosity from the other side of the aisle? If millions of women were suddenly opting out of dating, society would grind to a halt. There would be congressional hearings, endless talk shows, massive cultural campaigns, and thousands of articles written about how men need to do better, how men need to change to accommodate women. But because it is men opting out, the narrative is completely flipped. Women do not ask why, because asking why would require them to take a hard, uncomfortable look in the mirror. It would require accountability. It is much easier to write a blog post calling all men immature. It is much easier to make a TikTok video saying men are intimidated by strong, independent women. It is much easier to sit at a brunch table with 5 other single friends and collectively agree that where have all the good men gone? Is the fault of the men, not the standards, attitudes, and behaviours of the women, asking the question. To ask why a man prefers his own company over yours is to risk hearing an answer that shatters your ego. The truth is, many modern women have been sold a massive lie. They have been told that their career, their degree, their independence, and their sassy attitude make them a high-value prize. But men do not care about your degree. Men do not care about your corporate title. Men do not care how fiercely independent you are. Men care about peace, loyalty, femininity, and mutual respect. When a woman brings a combative boss babe, CIO energy into a romantic relationship, she becomes fundamentally repulsive to the very men she claims to want. A successful man who fights battles in the corporate world all day does not want to come home and fight another battle in his own living room. He wants a sanctuary, and since modern culture has taught women that being a sanctuary is oppressive and weak, men are simply building their own sanctuaries, alone. Let's look at the reality of the modern dating app experience, because this perfectly encapsulates the disconnect. A completely average man downloads a dating app. He swipes right on 100 women. He might get 1 or 2 matches if he is lucky. He sends a thoughtful message. He is ignored, or he is met with a one-word reply, or he is immediately asked for his height and salary. He is treated not as a human being with a soul, but as an applicant for a very unappealing job. He realizes very quickly that he is part of a rigged game. Meanwhile, a completely average woman downloads the same app. She gets 500 matches in the first hour. She is flooded with validation. She looks at this infinite buffet of men and assumes that her actual market value is sky high. What she fails to understand is that 90% of those men are swiping on every single profile without looking, and the top 10% of guys, the tall, rich, handsome ones she actually wants, are perfectly willing to sleep with her, but they will never, ever commit to her. So she spends her 20s riding this carousel of top-tier men, thinking that is her baseline. When she hits 30 and those top-tier men move on to younger women, she finally looks around at the average, good men she ignored for a decade. The guys who went to school, built a career, and stayed out of trouble. But guess what? Those guys have moved on too. They are no longer interested in paying full price for a used car. They are no longer interested in being someone's backup plan, someone's safety net, someone's eventual compromise when the party stops. The men who spent their 20s being invisible have spent that time building their wealth, their bodies, and their character. By the time they reach their 30s, they hold all the cards, and they are using those cards to say, politely but firmly, no thank you. This is the silent epidemic. It is the epidemic of the unavailable good man. Women are screaming into the void, asking where all the good, traditional, providing men have gone. But they refuse to acknowledge that traditional men require traditional women. You cannot demand 1950s chivalry and provision while offering 2024 modern independence and disregard for traditional gender roles. You cannot demand that a man be a protector and a provider while simultaneously mocking masculinity and telling the world that men are useless. The cognitive dissonance is staggering, and the tragedy here is the absolute lack of communication. There are millions of men who would love to be fathers, who would love to be husbands, who deeply, fundamentally crave the warmth of a loving home. It is written into our biology to want to build a family. But the environment has become so toxic, the risks have become so catastrophic, and the potential partners have become so demanding and unappreciative that men are overriding their own biological imperatives. They are choosing the quiet sorrow of solitude over the loud, destructive chaos of a modern relationship. Think about what it takes for a biological creature to willingly suppress its own evolutionary drive to reproduce and pair bond. It takes an incredibly hostile environment. That is what the modern dating market is for men, a hostile environment. It is a battlefield where the rules of engagement change daily, where the enemy is celebrated for attacking you, and where you are court-martialed for simply defending yourself. So men retreat. They build their own lives. They invest in their friendships with other men, creating bonds of brotherhood that provide the emotional support they use to seek from women. They pour their energy into their careers, stacking resources that they will use to travel, to build their dream homes, to fund their hobbies. They get dogs, which offer a level of unconditional loyalty and joy that modern dating rarely provides. They find fulfillment in the things they can control. And year by year, the desire to re-enter the dating market fades away completely. It stops being a phase, and it becomes a permanent lifestyle. And still, women do not ask why. The mainstream media does not ask why. They write articles about the lonely male crisis, painting men as pathetic, socially stunted basement dwellers. They frame the narrative as if men are defective for not wanting to play a rigged game. But the men reading those articles aren't angry anymore. They just laugh. They laugh because they are sitting in their peaceful, quiet homes, looking at their bank accounts, looking at their stress-free lives, and realize that they have actually won by refusing to play. We are heading toward a massive societal reckoning. You cannot have a functioning society where a significant portion of the male population completely unplugs from the family-building process. The economic impacts, the demographic impacts, the cultural impacts, they are going to be devastating. We are already seeing the birth rates plummeting below replacement levels. We are already seeing the housing market shift as more single people buy smaller homes for themselves. We are watching the very fabric of society unravel, and the solution is not to shame men back into the plantation. You cannot shame a man who has found true peace. The only way this changes is if society, and women in particular, are willing to do something incredibly difficult. Ask why, and actually listen to the answer. Listen without getting defensive. Listen without calling the man an incel. Listen without throwing out buzzwords like toxic masculinity. Listen when men say they are tired of being treated like walking ATMs. Listen when men say they are terrified of a legal system that can steal their children. Listen when men say they want to be respected, admired and supported, not just tolerated and critiqued. Listen when men say they want peace. Until that happens, the trend will only accelerate. The cafes, the parks, the cities will continue to fill with successful, quiet, single men who are keeping their heads down and building their own lives. They are not waiting for a cultural shift. They are not hoping for a revolution. They have already made their peace with the way things are. They have accepted the reality of the modern world, adapted to it, and found their own happiness, completely independent of romantic validation. If you are a man watching this, and you have been sitting alone for years, wondering if there is something wrong with you, I want you to hear this loud and clear. There is nothing wrong with you. Your desire for peace is rational. Your hesitation to risk your life's work is logical. You are not defective for refusing to walk into a burning building. Keep building yourself. Keep protecting your peace. Keep finding joy in your hobbies, your brotherhood, and your freedom. And if you are a woman watching this, the next time you find yourself wondering where all the good men have gone, do not look at your phone. Do not look at your Instagram feed. Look in the mirror. Ask yourself if the environment you and your peers have created is an environment a good man would ever want to enter. Ask yourself why so many men are choosing nothing over you. It is a painful question. It is a terrifying question. But until you are brave enough to ask it, the good men will continue to stay exactly where they are, far away and completely at peace.